The penultimate episode of 1923 Season 2 had a huge number of bombshell developments and incredibly important character deaths, and they're definitely worth going into more detail. 1923 Season 2, Episode 6 rocked the entire cast of 1923, and it significantly thinned the number of characters to remember going into the season finale. Even before 1923's War for the Yellowstone begins, several characters met their untimely demise, including one major member of the Dutton family tree. It was a whirlwind of death and violence, and the episode's ending may need an explanation. After putting off several different conflicts for the majority of the season, 1923 Season 2, Episode 6 finally saw some characters confront one another in spectacular, and bloody, fashion. Father Renault, Sebastian Roche, and Tiona Rainwater, Amina Nieves, finally settled their score, for example, while Jack Dutton, Darren Mann, met his shocking end. The road to Montana also had yet another tragedy in store for Alexandra, Julia Schleipfer, and everyone is still anxiously awaiting Spencer's, Brandon Sklenar, return. A lot happened in the build-up to 1923 Season 2's finale. Marshall Kent killed Pete Plentyclouds and Father Renault killed Kent. Pete died in the shootout, but Renault killed Kent to avoid perdition. The cliffhanger ending of 1923 Season 2, Episode 5 was very quickly resolved this week. In the previous episode, Pete Plentyclouds, Jeremy Gowner, and Marshall Kent, Jamie McShane, had a shootout, but 1923 cut to black as the bullets started to fly. As suspected, Pete Plentyclouds died by Marshall Kent's hand in 1923 Season 2, Episode 6. Kent told Father Renault that he could tell Pete was a Crow man, and that he killed him because he ran. Tiona Rainwater and runs his horse, Michael Spears, eventually found Pete's body. The most surprising part of the shootout, however, was what happened after it. Father Renault and Kent have been drifting apart ever since Kent trampled a Comanche boy with his horse, and that falling out finally came to a head. Renault told Kent that he was walking the pathway to perdition, and after Kent cursed at the priest, Renault shot him dead. In Renault's twisted sense of morality and faith, he likely thought ridding the earth of a bigoted murderer like Marshall Kent justified killing him. He even told Kent to scream with the devil after executing him. Whitfield revealed his training Lindy to manipulate politicians after taking the Yellowstone. Whitfield's sexual violence has been designed to make Lindy into a political asset. Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, has been training Lindy, Madison Elise Rogers, in the ways of sexual sadism all season long, and 1923 Season 2 finally explained what it has all been about. In a continuation of Whitfield's controversial storyline, Lindy hired a new sex worker, Mabel, Virginia Gardner, and began abusing her as well. This time, however, Whitfield explained to Banner Creighton, Jerome Flynn, that he was training Lindy to begin relationships with politicians and use sex to manipulate them. This entire time, Whitfield has just been trying to further his own business goals, and Christy, Kaylin Rice, was tortured to death because of IT. It seems that Whitfield won't be content with just owning the Yellowstone Ranch and turning it into a ski resort. His ambitions are much higher than that. Whitfield is likely training Lindy because he wants to have the entire state of Montana in his pocket, and the Yellowstone is just the first part of a long-term plan. At this point, just about the only thing standing between Whitfield and achieving that goal is Spencer Dutton. Clyde killed Jack Dutton after he went to the station alone in 1923. Jack thought he could trust Clyde as a livestock agent, but Clyde shot him while his gun was holstered. Another massive, and quite unexpected, death happened later on in 1923 Season 2, Episode 6. Jacob, Harrison Ford, had told Jack Dutton to stay at the lodge and guard the women, but the headstrong young man wouldn't listen. He decided to ride to the train station by himself to join Jacob and help defend Spencer, but on the way there, he ran into Clyde, Brian Connell, and Alec, Colt Brown. Once they got Jack out of the woods, Clyde shot Jack dead and hid his body. As Clyde mentioned, he was just getting a head start on killing Duttons. There are a few important things to remember about Jack's untimely death in 1923. Clyde was hired as an officer of the Livestock Association, which is why Jack trusted him enough to holster his gun. What Jack didn't know, however, is that Clyde has been working for Banner Creighton and Donald Whitfield since 1923 Season 1. He was actually the person who told the authorities about Zane, Brian Garrity, and Alice Davis, Joy Osmonsky, and had them arrested. Additionally, Jack has always been a headstrong and impulsive man, and those faults finally caught up with him. Father Renault shot Run's his horse and Tiona stabbed Renault. Tiona finally got her revenge against Renault, but Run's his horse paid the ultimate price. Father Renault, Sebastian Roche, looking angry on a horse in 1923 Season 2, Episode 1. Though Father Renault killed Marshall Kent, he wasn't done hunting down Tiona and Run's his horse. After they found Pete and Kent's bodies, Run's horse thought that he and Tiana were safe from danger, and finally decided to light a fire in the night. Unfortunately, that decision led Renault right to them, and he ambushed them in their sleep, shooting Run's horse dead. With her father dead, Renault had all the time in the world to force Tiana to repent for her sins and seek salvation before shooting her, in a rare stroke of luck for Tiana. However, Renault forgot to reload his revolver, and the gun clicked empty when he tried to execute her. Seizing her opportunity, Tiana grabbed a handful of hot coals and hit Renault in the face with them, badly burning and stunning him. Then, Tiana took out her knife and stabbed Renault multiple times before finally shooting him dead. Tiana is finally free from the men who have been hunting her, but she no longer has Pete or Run's horse. Tiana already said that she doesn't have anything left to live for, so she may not be completely safe yet. Hillary and Paul froze to death while driving Alexandra to Montana in 1923 Season 2, Episode 6. Alexandra is stranded and freezing in the Montana, Wyoming wilderness. The last major deaths in 1923 Season 2, Episode 6 also have the most immediate effect on the finale of the show. Alexandra was driving from Wisconsin to Montana with Paul, Augustus Prue, and Hillary, Janet Montgomery, the British couple who saved her from being arrested on the train. During their trip, however, the car ran out of gas somewhere between Wyoming and Montana, and both Paul and Hillary froze to death. Alexandra only survived because she had an extra blanket and because she hadn't been drinking like Hillary and Paul had, as alcohol consumption lowers the body's core temperature. A big reason Paul and Hillary froze to death even though they were in a running car is because most cars didn't have standard internal heating until the 1960s, and they were essentially just as cold inside as they would have been outside. What isn't as easy to explain is why they continued driving even after the gas station attendant told Alex that there were no gas stations until they reached Billings. It's possible that Paul simply overestimated his car's range or insisted on driving the whole way, but it's still odd that Alexandra didn't want to take the train to Bozeman.